Open Meeting Act is available for audience members. Additionally, there is a copy of all reproducible written material that will be discussed available for examination and copying by members of the public pursuant to the provisions of the Open Meeting Act. All right, so roll call.
We have a brand new deputy director joining us today. She'll introduce herself a little bit later on, but just to let you know that she is a deputy director in training. And so I will be handling the deputy director duties one more time today. And with that in mind, I will call Sherry Hofshire.
Here.
Brian Botsford.
Here.
Zachary Cheek.
Here.
Brenda Davis.
Here.
Michelle Dudley.
Here.
Crystal Dunning.
Here.
Oh, there she is. Okay, very good. Jana Goranson.
Here.
John Gross.
Here.
Karen Harris.
Here.
Julie Jacobson.
Present.
Clark Coulterman.
Here.
Wonderful. Mark Laughlin, I believe, is not going to be joining us. Okay. Clark Roush.
Here.
Jeannie Salerno.
Here.
And James Wright. No James yet. Okay, very good. Okay.
Okay, first of all, we need to approve the agenda. Does anyone have any questions or concerns or anything they want to do about the agenda? Everybody okay with it? If so, let's go through a quick roll call vote, which, you know, we have to do for state reasons. So if you want to just thumbs up on this, you can. All right.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I have to read your whole name slowly, otherwise the voice activated microphone won't pick it up. So with that in mind, Sherry Hofshire.
Yes.
Brian Botsford.
Yes.
Zachary Cheek.
Yes.
Brenda Davis.
Yes.
Michelle Dudley.
She's up.
Crystal Dunning.
Yes.
Jana Goranson.
Yes.
John Gross.
Yes.
Karen Harris.
Did you say me?
Yes, Karen
Oh,
Harris.
yes. I couldn't tell. I couldn't understand what you said. Sorry.
That's all right. Julie Jacobson.
Yes.
Clark Coulterman.
Yes.
Clark Roush.
Yes.
Jeannie Salerno.
Yes.
And James Wright. No, okay, that's it.
Okay, then moving on to oral communications. We're going to start with the Nebraska Cultural Endowment in Maggie Smith.
Oh, give us just a second to bring the
Okay.
slide up and share with everybody.
Okay.
Not yet, I know he's here though. We'll figure it out. Thank you. You gotta do motions in seconds. All right. Okay, Maggie, you're up.
Hi, everyone, and hello to any new council members I have not met yet. I appreciate you inviting me, as always, to join. And thank you for letting me go first. It was nice seeing you, Mike. So I like to just start off usually by talking through what sort of financial disbursements have been made over the course of the year. It's always kind of fun to do at the end of the year because it's big. And I think, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this was the largest distribution to date. I think it's the first time that we've gone over 1 million total distribution.
It's been a few years. We've
Oh, we
done.
have gone over 1 million? Okay. Well, darn it, that's my level. But I'm happy to report that we did have a very healthy distribution this year. As most of you know, some of you might not quite yet, but you will as Mike works you through orientation and you get used to this. We do have 2 different funds that support the endowment. One is the public fund where Mike and his team work with the state investment council to manage, and that is what we refer to as CPAF. And that fund is currently, has been for most of the year, has been, or at least half the year, has been above corpus, which means that we've been able to take distributions, drawdowns from that fund and then distribute them. And then we have our private fund, which is what, if anybody gives to the endowment, it goes immediately into the private fund. And that's what we use to qualify for the match that the state gives us, which is what goes into CPAP. So we had, from our private fund, we had distributions in March that you see there, and then our public fund distributions came throughout the year as we drew down, as the funds went over the corpus. And we also, you'll see their stability fund distributions. At the beginning of the year, CPAF was under, the public fund was under corpus, and luckily we had some funds in what we call our stability fund that we were able to use to make up for that. And so we did distribute those early in the year, but luckily we didn't have to distribute any more later in the year because we were drawing down from the CPAF fund as it moved above corpus. So that was great. So as you can see, we're about 1,200,000 in distribution to both of the organizations we support, which we're happy to report. And I believe Mike has some good news. We might be able to add a little to that before the end of the year. I'll let him report that to you a little
I
later.
asked her not to steal my thunder.
I didn't say it. I'm teasing. I'm giving them a little something to look forward to. Okay, you can move forward, Mike. And then I'd just like to let everyone sort of know about the health and wellness of the endowment, how we're doing as an organization. The private fund that I mentioned before is actually almost 19.5 million now. We've had a really good year. The CPAF fund value as of the 30th of September was about 500,000 above corpus. And the match campaign update is that we are in great shape for our match. So our match campaign with the state of Nebraska is a $10 million match between 2020 and 2030. And we just need to raise $1 million a year to make that match. And as of this year, around this time this year, we have already raised over 6 million towards the $10 million match. So we're doing great. We basically are matched through 2026, through the end of 2026 and a little bit into 2027. So that's nice. We are currently working with UNO and the public affairs offices at UNO, Dr. Josie Schaefer, on a statewide impact analysis project that we've raised private funds for. So it's not coming out of the endowment or any of our earnings. It was all privately funded. Our biggest funder was the Sherwood Foundation. And we've been really going through the last year in a planning phase. But what we're trying to do is show the impact of arts and cultural humanities investments across the state of Nebraska. So being able to look at where there has been investment in those areas and how it has improved the economy, the well-being, jobs, talent retention across Nebraska. And we feel like it's a really important project. It's been done in Lincoln, it's been done in Omaha, but it's never been done statewide. So we are moving towards that. This year, we will be doing a lot more. We're going to be putting an advisory committee together and working with them. And hopefully we'll start getting some real results and start really forming this into a larger report that we can roll out. We're thinking in 2026. So that's very exciting. And I'm happy to report that that's moving quickly and that our funding is strong. We are funded, I think, probably through 2025, but we continue to work with funding on that. And then the only other thing would be, we've been going through a strategy session with our board of directors. We've never had a strategy session before, so that was kind of fun. We worked with Mission Matters and we've had our final strategy meeting in October, and we will be providing a little more about the results of that in your March Arts Council meeting. Just give you some high level results that we had from that engagement. And the only other thing I have to report today is that we our office manager Julia Watson, who's been with the endowment for 6 years, is retiring at the end of this year. And so we have been going through a selection and interview process to create a new role that isn't exactly replacing Julia. We're moving a lot of administrative work over to our accounting firm, but instead to hire someone full-time, which is our second full-time employee ever, who will be more of a development support for me. And so I'm very pleased to announce that we have hired Emma Jorgensen, who is sitting here on my left. And this is her second week of work, and she is already just in there rolling like thunder. And I'm so happy to have her, and I'm really excited to start the new year with her in our organization. So that's everything going on in the
And she
endowment.
was a stage manager in the theater in her previous life, so you know she knows what she's doing.
I'll tell you
So little
what, yeah.
prejudice there.
Well, it's true though, if you know what you're doing, you hire a stage manager, they know they can do everything, they can problem solve anything,
Good
so.
point.
We're very happy to have Emma on board.
I will just add that, obviously with so much money in the bank, you'd think that you'd take a little time off, but no, you are out there hustling. And, most of you should have already received, if you haven't already, just let me know, this handsome, annual appeal, packet that came from the endowment. Got mine yesterday, and so, encourage you to take a look at that. They do important work, and their work, increasingly benefits the Arts Council. You don't mind my saying that we are looking at developing a designated fund to support our Creative Aging Arts program that received its first $1,000. I'll tell a little bit more about that here coming up. But I think their work and our work, especially through the impact study and designated program funding programs like that, just continues to be more and more important to us. And we not only applaud the work that you're doing, but we welcome Emma and what she's going to do as well. So thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you and welcome, Emma. We're glad to have you. I don't see Lance. Am I missing?
Lance, did you join us virtually? He was here an hour ago.
He was here, I was
Okay.
talking to him, he said.
Oh, I know what. He warned me. He said he may have to come in later in the meeting.
Okay.
We may have to come
Okay,
back.
we'll do Nebraskans for the Arts and we'll just set them aside until we get to Lance and we'll move on to approval of minutes. Does anyone have any additions or corrections to the minutes from the September 5th board meeting? If not, do I hear a motion for approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Oh, I'll second.
Is there a second?
I think Zach said.
I'll second.
Second. All right. And again, we'll go through a quick roll call. You can just do a thumbs up. We can't see everybody.
No, let's take, oh, I don't have it.
Okay, that's
Would you mind putting them on
okay.
gallery?
Just everybody, okay, go through.
All right. Sherry Hofshire,
Yes,
Brian Botsford,
Yes.
Zachary Cheek,
yes,
Brenda Davis,
yes.
Michelle Dudley, Crystal Dunning, Jana
Yes,
Goranson,
Yes.
Adam Gross,
Yes.
Karen Harris,
Yes.
Lee Jacobson,
Yes.
Clark Colterman,
Yes.
Mark Roush,
Yes.
Jeannie Salerno,
yes.
and James has not joined us yet. Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, we're very excited to introduce, we have two new board members. Julie Jacobson and Clark Colterman, who are joining us. And I'd like both of you just to take 60 seconds to tell us anything you want to tell us about yourself. We'll start with Julie, who's here in the boardroom.
Well, I'm a retired biochemist that loves the arts, so very involved, with symphony and all kinds of things in our area. I served on the Nebraska Arts Council for a period of about 10 years ago, under different governors, and I'm happy to be back and happy to be serving because the statewide initiatives were there, when I was in place the other time, and now we have creative arts districts, so I'm so happy to learn everything there is to know. And like I said to Sir, I'm here to be of service to all of you. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Clark?
Yes, I'm Clark Colderman from Seward, been a long time involved member of our local Arts Council. I was president of the Arts Council for 40 years and I go way back. Also involved with our big 4th of July celebration and a host of other activities, been involved on various activities on the tourism level, at the state level, and happy to be here as well.
Great. Well, welcome to you both. We're excited to have you. You both have such enthusiasm, which we always appreciate. So, and then we also are excited that both Karen and Jeannie have been reappointed. So they'll begin 3-year terms now. So welcome back. We need to have you do the oath of office. And we have a slide, don't we, with you? We've got a slide for it. And I think you need to all say it at the same time, stating your name. So if I'm laughing because every time we've done this since I've been on this board, it's all messed up. But I will start you out, and then once you say your name, can you all see that? So the 4 of you will please continue on so we can hear you. All right, everybody ready?
I gotta
All
go
right.
back just a minute.
Ready? Okay.
Do you
Can
need me
you
to
see
conduct
it?
that, Sherry?
I
You got it, Clark?
No, not yet. Let
do
me go.
solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
Say the
Con-
countdown, say.
Okay, we're gonna start again. I'm sorry.
Do we say it together?
Okay, you're gonna say it together, yes. All right, everybody ready? 2, 1. I.
I, Mark Colderman,
Karen Harris,
do
do
solemnly
solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely and without mental reservation or for purpose of evasion, and that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties of the office of council member according to the law and to the best of my ability. And I do further swear that I do not advocate, nor am I a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence, and that during such time as I am in this position, I will not advocate nor become a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence, so help me God.
Wow. Thank you.
We promise not to do that again for another 3 years.
Yes, okay. Now, I would like to address something that I brought up to Mike last summer. And it came to me because Jeannie Salerno, who was just appointed to fill Amy Haddad's position last February, and she now is ready for a 3-year term. But my question was, after 7 months, does that count as a first 3-year term? And so Mike checked it out with the Attorney General, and the word we got back was that none of these short fill-ins count as a term.
Correct.
So anybody on this board can have 2 full 3-year terms. And that affects a number of people on this board right now. We went through, and here's what we've got. Next September, when terms are up, they're 2025, Brenda, Michelle, and myself all came on with less than 2 years. So any of us could re-up for another 3-year term. I'm telling you now, we need no decisions right at this point. If you think about it, once you make a decision, let Mike and I know. We'd like to know by this summer so that if you are not interested in continuing, then we have time to start looking for people who would be. Then that would also affect in the future. For 2026, Brian, Jana, and Clark Roche, you all came on with short stints. So you could re-up for another 3-year term if you so desire. And of course, Jean, you're just starting your 3-year, could have another 3-year. Does that make sense to everybody? Just to let you know, you may be more than happy after 4 or 5 years that you've had enough, and that's fine. But just so you know that you can have a full 6 years if you so desire.
And just as a reminder, if you're interested in looking at yours and everybody else's term, there is that document in the back of the packet
Right.
in the reference area that has the layout of everybody in their terms, and so you can always refer to that, or just give us a call.
Okay, hearing no questions, and I'm gonna move on to the financials. Jana, it's all yours. Jana?
And, yeah, I'm sorry, I was on mute. After you said it's all mine, and then I said, and it's all Mike's.
Well, and Jenna has taken over the leadership of the financial committee. Thank you very much. They met on December 3rd to review the finances, and they approved what you're about to hear. It won't be nearly as detailed as we provided for them, but we'll hit the high point. Anywhere along the way, though, that any of you have any questions, don't hesitate to to ask, and we'll answer the best we can. All right, the first document that you see on the screen, and it's on tab 2, page 8 of your packet, is what the state accounting division provides for us as a report on our expenditures to date. And real quickly, if you remember, we have 3 different programs, 326, 327, 329. And the important column there is the year-to-date expenditures, which shows you that to date, we have spent $320,249.70 in 26, $1,170,201 in 327, and $351,020 in 329. Just as a reminder, that expenditure in 329 is not an expenditure, that is the money that's been drawn down to date as of October 31st. That's what that means. We have not had any actual expenditures out of 329 yet because we just got a deputy director, and that's what the majority of those expenses are for. Okay, any questions about this page? If not, then the second document is on the next page, and it's the reflection of what our finances show. And we set it up this way again so that our books mimic the state's books. And again, the important column is the year-to-date expenditures, and you can see that our numbers match their numbers to the penny, which is always a good sign. I have the details for administration, the grants, and 329 in here. I'll just let you know that at the top of the document, you can see that as of October 31st, we are a third of the way through the year. So the key expenditures like salaries, rent, you would anticipate that they would be in that ballpark. They are. There are no surprises administratively to this date. Many of our expenditures will come in the springtime. But if anybody has any questions about this page or any of the expenditures reported on it, I'll be glad to answer. And again, as a reminder, as the council, you are only voting on the items to the left of the yellow document. The items to the right are the NAC Development Corporation numbers. Those are just provided for informational purposes, so you see the breadth of our operations. But if there are any questions about the detail for administration, if not, I'll move on to the detail for our grants. And again, the middle column there, a number of our grants get paid out earlier in the year, so it's not unusual to see those numbers above the 33% mark. It will all even out by the end of the year, but again, you can see the expenditures that we've had to date, and if anybody has any questions about any of those, know that, one of the things that we'll be discussing today are the upcoming development grants, and that's the reason that you don't see any development grant expenditures there for this year, nor for the 327 cash fund. We will be deciding those grant awards, in January. Okay, no questions. I will move on to 329. On this page, you have a little bit of information provided, not only the authority to spend, and reminder that the authority to spend is not the amount of money that we have to spend, but rather the amount of money that we're allowed to draw down. $1.3 million, $1.4 million is the amount that we're allowed to draw down. Doesn't mean that we'd have to stop there. We would just have to ask them to increase the appropriation. The $55,000 then is the amount of money that we're allowed to spend on administration of that program. And you see is again, there to date, we haven't had any expenditures, but we've had drawdowns totaling $351,020. The balance of the CPEF, and that should actually say 9/30/2024, was $14,553,840.72, which was a good sign. And that will lead me to my good news, but before I get to it, you have to agree to approve this portion of it. So we'll vote on this first.
First of all, are there any questions? All right, then do we have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve.
Jeannie moves. Is there a second?
Seconds.
Yeah, seconds.
Very good. Sherry Hofshardt.
Yes.
Brian Botsford.
Yes.
Zachary Cheek.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Michelle Dudley. Crystal Dunning.
Yeah.
Jana Goranson.
Yes.
Ron Gross.
Yes.
Karen Harris.
Yes.
Willie Jacobson.
Yes.
Clark Coulterman.
Yes.
Mark Roush.
Yes.
Keith Salerno.
Yes.
No James Wright. Thank you. All right, now, moving on then. The next report is the status of the Cultural Preservation Endowment Fund. And I'll lead you through this. The good news is, if you look down there about 2/3 of the way, earnings drawn down in November. This was not reflected in the report that Maggie provided for you earlier because we are in the midst of this process right now. As you noted on the previous slide, the balance of the fund at the end of September was $14,500,000. And of that, though, there was this earnings that was distributed in October was not part of that number, the $152,995, which meant that there was actually $400,845 in the balance that was available to be drawn down. And we are in the midst of drawing that down, which would mean that to date, we would have available to distribute $1.1 million. A reminder that there is a distribution limit that we have as a policy to only distribute up to 6.25% of the corpus of the fund, which this year is $875,000. So anything above that gets banked in the stability fund for the next year. So the total to be distributed at this time then is $141,893, and you see the breakdown as to what NAC will receive and what Humanities Nebraska will receive. So after our very slow start to the year, it's been a terrific fall. And as I mentioned, and as you know, our reports have a lag to them. The most recent one we have was for September 30th. And I have no reason to believe that October wouldn't have been a good month as well. So we would hope that there'd be even more money to be drawn down yet this year and build up that stability fund for next year. Any questions about the CPEF update? Okay, this doesn't need a vote, just so you know where we're going. In the March meeting, then we will provide an outlay as to where this puts us in terms of being able to fund programs for next year. For BSG, for education programs, and the other things that the CPEF funds could be used for. All right.
Okay, moving on to the NAC Development Corporation, we need to, this board, the NAC board, has to elect the NAC DC Board of Directors. So we have to do that officially as a vote. The people who have agreed to serve on the financial committee are Zach and Jana, John, Mark, and James. So I would like a motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Julie. Anybody second?
Second.
Thank you, Clark. Take a vote.
Unless there's any discussion.
I do have a question. Mike, we vote on ourselves, right?
I'm sorry?
We vote for ourselves, right? Or what?
Sure, no conflict of interest there.
Okay.
Oh, you certainly can.
I think he's a swell guy, so why not?
Didn't know you were gonna campaign, but.
When in Rome.
Wonderful. All right, Sherry Hofshardt.
Yes.
Brian Botsford.
Yes.
Zachary Cheek.
I actually will abstain.
All right, very good. Brendan Davis.
Yes.
Michelle Dudley. Crystal Dunning.
Yes.
Anna Goranson.
Yes.
Ron Gross.
Yes.
Aaron Harris.
Yes.
Billy Jacobson.
Yes.
Clark Colterman.
Yes.
Clark Roush.
Yes.
Steve Salerno.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and then it is, according to the NAC DC bylaws, the NAC president is appointed by the NAC chair, which happens to be me. So I will be appointing Janet Goranson, who we thank so very much for agreeing to step in and do this. It's a tough job, but thank you very much for agreeing. So you will be the president. And then just as a point of reference, Mike and I serve on the financial, the NAC DC finance as well as ex officios.
Can I also add that, and it's wonderful for all of you to serve on that finance committee. Obviously, they look over the finances in depth and ask me lots of very helpful questions and such. The one thing I want to point out is that Zach Cheek has agreed to be the treasurer of the organization, which bears a lot of responsibility, and he's the one who has to co-sign all the checks for us. And so thank you, Zach, for being at the other end of that line and signing that for us throughout the year. Appreciate it.
No worries. My hands are about to fall off, but it's okay.
Good, thanks.
Okay, moving on then to grant reports, 2024 grant reports. I should say 2024, shouldn't it? Artists in schools and communities. Josh, is that you?
Yeah,
Hey.
and I've got a slide there too. Couple of grants. One is for Eastern Nebraska Community Action Partnership. That's NCAP, serving kind of the North Omaha area, and that was a program for the older adults that they've got there. So that was a nice success. That was a Kim Darling led residency program. Also a Kim Darling residency, multiple pathways. The Accelerate program serves students who need a different approach to high school completion. Sometimes it is new residents to Nebraska from other communities, some international community students, or kids that need to get a little caught up. A really nice program housed at the Blackburn Alternative High School.
That's it?
And that's it.
Unless
Okay,
anybody has
we
any
don't need to
questions?
approve any of these.
No.
They're just all done.
No, just as a reminder, the way that we now operate is that the panels make the recommendation as to which grants should receive funding. Then based upon the monies available, and the formula, and the score that they receive, the formula determines how much money they will get. They are reviewed by the board at these meetings. If the board has any issues with anything that had gone on or questions about it, the board has the ability to be able to override the vote of the panel by a vote of its own. So, but for these purposes of this meeting, your work is just to review the panels, to listen to the reports of the chairs. And like I said, if you have any questions or anything like that, ask them at this time.
Okay, any questions? Then let's move on. I think the next one we're doing is the Arts Learning Project Grants. Jana, I think this is yours.
It is, thank you. We met, as it says on there, on the November 19th. And as you can see, there were 13 applications. I loved the titles of them. They're not listed there. I'm just going to read 3 of them to you so you can see the diversity of the applications. One was the Wizard of Oz Jumping Jitterbugs Workshop. One was Beat Making and Fashion Education for Underserved Youth. And another catchy one was Threads of Heritage, Weaving Stories Across Generations. So just from those 3 titles, you can tell that they're really expanding and providing diversity and ingenuity with these programs. All of the applications that you see in black were funded. There was one that was not funded, the Malone Center. And the panel felt that it was just lacking some depth, lacking some explanations. So hopefully they can take the panelists' comments in the future and strengthen their application a little bit. And another note, it was very interesting that Anne had gotten panelists from outside of Nebraska, and they were employees from various arch agencies to the United States. So I really enjoyed their knowledge and perspective coming from different parts of the country. And as a final note, I would like to thank Anne. She always does such a beautiful job in presenting and organizing. So does anybody have any questions?
I'll just make mention of what you're looking at there, obviously, is the score of the organization, their request. And the final column there, the percent of their request. You note that the lowest down there received 64% of the request. The average was 73%. Once we take the amount of the request and the amount of money that was available for the category, we then determine based upon their score what they received. The 64% being the lowest. Should anybody receive less than 50%, we then go back to them and ask them, can you still do it? That didn't happen this time, but that's what those numbers mean.
Mike, do you know if any of those receiving just 73% that they will still be able to continue with their programs? You know, they'll have to find funding for
Well, what
the
will happen,
balance of it.
we don't inform anybody until after this meeting.
Oh, okay.
So then if they do come back and say, listen, we can't do it for that, then
Okay.
we'll work with them the best we can. But if they can't, then they would withdraw and we'd have to reallocate the funds.
Okay.
Thanks, good question.
Yeah. All right, any questions? Hearing none, let's move on to the next. I think the next 2 are yours, Michelle. The grants project, arts project grants, panel 1.
So we met on Wednesday, November 13th, and then Thursday at the 14th. We reviewed 12 grants on Wednesday and 10 on Thursday. And this is the first time I've done this. And so I just want to commend Rachel for such a seamless meeting. I mean, it just went really, really well. And the panelists were just so informed and thorough and very constructive. So it was a great learning experience for me too. 2 of the applications on Thursday were deemed non-competitive, and so they were not recommended for funding. But again, if you look in your packet, you can see the strengths and then the questions concerned for each of the organizations. And so, you know, hopefully the ones that were not funded at this time will come back with a stronger application. So.
just mention a couple of things about this. You'll see that the average request on both these panels is 73, as it was with the other. We take the money and allocate it across the panels so that the average request is the same for all the panels. We basically pool the money together and then determine based upon the requests of the category, so that everybody starts about the same. And then these are the two that Jana mentioned, or Michelle mentioned, that didn't receive the funding.
Any questions? That was a busy 2 days. Thank you. And then the last one is annual series and events. Brian?
Yeah, I don't have too much to say about it. It was, these are all really interesting events that go on across the state. It's always really enjoyable for me as a board member to hear what's happening and take a good look at these series. All 4 of them are really great opportunities for Nebraska, so we're excited to have them.
I will only add here, and Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong, we used to have 7 or 8 in this.
There were 7 in this category.
And 3 of them have fallen out for different reasons. We will be taking a look at I think the ASC category and seeing if we don't need to include some other organizations that do this. This category is built up of organizations that basically do the same event every year. And so we may be looking to see if there should be some added to this or what else we might want to do with the category. But that's the reason that there's only 4 of them. There used to be more.
Okay. All right, then let's move. Let's see, we've got the spring panel dates with those who are chairing them are on the screen now. I want to give a big thank you to Michelle and Jana and Brian for chairing. I know it takes time. And I'm glad to hear that you found it to be a good learning experience. I have too. I think it's one of the things, I learned a lot about our state and a lot about other states from the comments that, you know, the other panelists make as well. So it is a great way to really get in-depth understanding of what's happening. So a thank you for doing it, and a thank you to those that have already committed for next year, for next May. Wow, it's a busy May, folks.
It will be.
Jeez.
A couple of points of information about this is that the reason that you notice that the basic support grant, that one up there. Now, let me first of all by saying we're presenting these to you now. You will receive an email after this meeting asking you if you were interested in serving on any of these panels. But just so that you have some idea of the dates and who will be chairing them. Now, in terms of if you have an interest in serving any of these grant panels, I wanted to let you know that the reason that the basic support grant has 2 dates is because it will be the same panel on 2 days. So you would serve a 2-day panel. The others, the reason that they're broken out, Arts Project Grant 1, 2, 3. If you remember, we take the grants that come in the Arts Project Grant and we separate them into different panels based upon their discipline. We'll do a day of music, a day of theater, a day of visual, as an example. Each panel has a separate panel, and each panel has its own pool of funds, so that they're not in competition with each other. They're only in competition with those being reviewed by that panel. So if you're interested in serving on the Arts Project Grant, you would only be serving on one of those dates, as opposed to the basic support where you'd be serving on 2 days. Okay? And we'll have an explanation of that again when we send around the email, but we do encourage you because our council members tend to be the most probing people on the panel, and that's always good to have you there. So appreciate those of you who have served in the past, and we would hope that we'd have some of you. Oh, and just as a note also, our new people, although Julie, you've served on panels before, so this may not pertain to you, but Clark, we do offer if the first year, if you would like to audit the panel. In other words, you can review the grants and all that, but not be responsible for providing comments or scores. just as a means by getting used to the panel process, tipping your toe in before you get all wet.
Okay.
It must be a theater reference. I'm missing it. Okay, moving on, we have reports, and I know Mike has tons of stuff, so I'm gonna go through mine first. The chair report. I attended the National Assembly of State Arts Agencies Conference in Puerto Rico. Mike was able to take the entire staff, which I thought was really an incredible thing to be able to do. And it was a great experience for them. There were many peer sessions for them all to be involved in. And even without the peer sessions, there were lots of other sessions that we all attended that we came out of and said, did you hear? Can we do what? There was just a tremendous amount of energy. We were also joined by Lance Nielsen in the back there with the blue shirt from Nebraskans for the Arts, who was there as part of the Creative Industries
Creative States Coalition.
Coalitions, okay. Which were meeting at the same time. There were a couple of other groups that were there meeting, as well as the 50 states, the 6 territories, so there were 56 with board members and executive directors and all. It was just a wonderful conference. I came back with a lot of energy. It was hot. The Puerto Rican people were delightful. They were full of energy and enthusiasm, and I think we all got a good experience out of it. And there's the selfie with Talisa with her long arm getting us all ready and cutting Debbie off on the side. Anything you want to mention about?
Yeah, I will just so you know, yeah, we did take the entire staff. The state did not pay for the entire staff. The state paid for everybody who had a responsibility there, served on a peer group or something like that. NAC Development Corporation foot the bill for the others, and part of that was made possible by a bequest from what was her first name? Renee Pate. And she left some money to NAC Development Corporation. With that funds, we were able to take the entire staff, which, how do you take 8 and not take the other 2? So it made it possible, but for the sake of those listening in from the state, no, we did not pay for the entire staff to go to a Caribbean island. They all had work to do. All right, that was it.
Okay, then moving on, we need to talk about the council meeting dates for 2025. March 4th will be virtual. Just as a reminder, the state allows us to have 2 virtual now, but we have to have 2 in person. And the in-person ones have to have only the votes count when you're actually there. You can come in on Zoom, but for state purposes, you have to be here for those. And it used to be you couldn't have any virtual ones. So since COVID, they've at least opened that up. June will be in Omaha, maybe down here at the NAC offices, maybe somewhere else. That's in process. We need, and December 9th will be virtual, just like this one is this year. But September.
Oh, I'm sorry, December 9th.
Yeah, I jumped, and then I'm going back to September 9th or 11th. The reason that there are 2 dates there is because last year, if you'll remember, we had the September meeting in Beatrice that was in correlation with the State Arts Conference and the creative districts, which were on a Thursday and Friday, and we had our board meeting there at the same time. It's a whole bunch of us, most of you came down to Beatrice, so we had a great meeting. So the question is, as we're looking at the Arts Council, do you want to say it or do you want me to?
Sure, our meetings are usually held on Tuesday, and that would be the September 9th meeting. However, if we hold it in conjunction with the assembly, that is best done on Thursday and Friday. So we would be looking to hold the meeting on Thursday, September 11th. And so it is a matter of discussion as to whether you guys like the idea of meeting during that creative district, in the creative district. And to help you along with that thought, we wanted to let you know that we have put out an RFP, as it were, to our creative districts, asking them if they would be interested in hosting next year's assembly. And by that, in other words, we asked them, you know, would you be willing to work with the city and the local merchants to host this and have some entertainment, that sort of thing. And these were the 7 for which we received an application. And after looking at them, the one that made the most sense to us is to hold it in, that is the wrong one.
Nebraska City?
Yeah, I highlighted the wrong one. It should be the River Point Creative District in Norfolk is where we're looking to hold it next. Yeah, look at that. And so none of this is set in stone, but we would hold it on September 11th next year in Norfolk.
Wait, hold on, Mike. My speaker stopped working. So we're going to Nebraska City, right?
No,
I'm trying to joke. It's not working. Sorry.
Here are some of the things that they offered in their application was they've got the sculpture walk downtown. The entire downtown is really set up as a beautiful creative district. Downtown alleyways and the restaurants and everything that they have going down there, the live music. They have a really developed creative district program there. And so they are just one of the ones that we use as a model. And they have a whitewater park. So we will be working out the details of allowing everybody to enjoy that as well. But they have lots of good meeting space there, and they are one of the first ones, and so we thought it would be apropos to meet there next year. So with that in mind, if there are anybody that has a strong objection to us not meeting in conjunction with the assembly on September 11th in Norfolk, we'd certainly be interested in discussing it, but that's what our hope is at this time. This is not to say that we would do this every year, but while we're in the neighborhood, Norfolk being in the neighborhood, as it were, we thought that we would take advantage of this to see if folks wanted to travel again to Norfolk to do this.
Comments, discussion. Michelle, did you want to say anything else about how wonderful your backyard is?
You know, it's a great community. They've done wonderful things with their creative district. I would love for you guys to come up and enjoy what we have to offer. We had a Nebraska Cultural Endowment meeting here a while back, and they just had a great time. And we have some fun restaurants and bars, and not that you need to do that, and art center. So yes, so I'd love to have you all there.
I do actually have a serious question, Mike. Have you mentioned to Congressman Flood yet that we're going to Norfolk?
We've not decided it yet, but yeah, that was.
Oh, okay, that you're thinking Norfolk. Okay, so makes sense. You have to decide. My bad.
Wanted to have this conversation first, but yeah, that I certainly hope that he could stop in while we're there.
Any other comments about your willingness to go to Norfolk?
Well, I just found it very engaging, and it was certainly a great incentive for attending that, the fact that the meeting was going to be there also. And as a new board member, I felt like I learned so much, particularly about the creative districts, which until you know about them, you just don't realize what's going on. So any of those, I would love to go to.
Okay.
We'll move forward with that then. Thank you all very much.
All right. So then the next thing is that anybody who's in the neighborhood, Thursday, day after tomorrow, they're going to have the opening of the new show in the gallery here. So drop on down for a holiday meet and greet.
Yeah, this was a late coming idea. We just thought of it a little more than a week ago. But it's a really good idea, and I think we'll look to do this every year. Open the doors for our friends up on the other floors, as well as the Omaha community and our constituents to come down, meet everybody, and then stick around and see the reception. So I think unless this absolutely bombs, we'll look to do this every year. But if you can make it, we would hope that you come.
And this time of year to see the decor,
Right.
particularly in our parks.
Yeah.
We've got a poinsettia and everything. So.
Just don't try to drive down Capitol Avenue because it's closed.
Oh, good warning. Thank you.
Then I would also give a thank you to those, to everyone who did help out with the special event for the staff. They are going to be doing a nice holiday lunch next week, and I know that they are appreciative not only of getting a lunch, but also the fact that we cared enough to think about them. So thank you. And I think that that's all I have.
Okay.
So it's all yours.
All right, I will. First thing I'd like to do then is formally introduce our new Deputy Director, Cindy Grady, and ask her to tell you a little bit about herself and what she does for us.
All right. Well, Michelle, I grew up in Windside, so I grew up 30 minutes from Norfolk, so excited that we're going up there. My mom lived there for a number of years. She passed last year, so excited to do that. Most recently, I've been at Gallup as a senior workplace consultant for the last 8 years of my life, and I'm just really excited to be here with the Nebraska Arts Council and serving in this deputy director capacity. On the slide, you'll see my two pups. They're both mixes between a Cavalier King Charles and a mini poodle. So the black one is Winston, and the brown one with my daughter there is Gibson. And you might see a little scooter around town, and that's me.
And her daughter stopped in the other day. Just a delightful person, will be graduating with a marketing degree. So if anybody has any knowledge of any openings there, she'll be glad to talk to you.
That would be fabulous. She's starting to look. So she graduates in May from Buena Vista and Storm Lakes.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you and welcome. In conjunction with what we were talking about, I wanted to ask Rachel. Who's not here. Oh, is you on there?
Right here.
I can tell people about what we just did in terms of an assembly. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So as Jeannie said, a lot of people made it to our meeting in Beatrice, which was great. We held our creative district assembly and the conference in Beatrice. It was a 2-day affair. The first day really focusing on creative districts, and then the next day had a more broad perspective to it. So I put some data up there because we're all about the data and showing how successful it was. I think it was a great time to bring districts together on Thursday. They really enjoyed being in the same space, being able to share ideas with each other, meet each other in person. We were able to do things like take a walk through the creative district and actually see things in person. And I think that made a huge difference. It's one thing to talk about it online or in an email, but to actually see it and visit together, I think it was incredibly helpful. We had districts that were just interested in the program and just getting started, as well as those who have been certified for a while. So it was a real nice peer-to-peer time. Some great sessions, and overall you can see that we scored a 4.5 out of 5 with the survey results. And I just want to thank everybody that was able to come down and participate. It's a great time when we can get everyone together and see what everyone is doing across the state.
Well, thank you, Rachel. And
could I mention too that the upper left-hand corner, you see that is, if you don't recognize her, that's Suzanne Pillen, who's Governor Pillen's wife, who he was invited and he was unable to come down, but she came down to give a few opening remarks and all, and was extremely gracious, talking to people. And there were a number of people who knew her from, from before. So we really appreciated her, taking the time and coming.
Oh, that's exactly what I was gonna point out. So,
Great minds think alike.
that's scary. Any questions about the assembly? And again, this is what we'll do next year in Norfolk. All right, very quickly, some of the things that are going on that I wanted to let you know about. Legislative update, obviously, we've just had an election, and so we have a lot of new senators. And there will be brand new people on the Appropriations Committee that we won't know until after the beginning of the year. But I have been meeting with Walt Radcliffe, who is our advisor, our lobbyist, and works with the Cultural Endowment, with Senator Stinner, with our legislative financial officer, all to glean what wisdom they have about the best approach to be working with the Appropriation Committee. And once we know who all is on that, we'll then figure out the best package of testimony that we'll present when we have an opportunity to go in and talk about our agency. Part of that will be to not only talk about our biennial budget request, but a large part of that will be the additional $1 million that we asked for the creative districts. I will let you know, and if anybody has any information to the contrary, please let me know. But that the revenue forecast came in and called for a deficit of was it 400 million? Yeah, so the long and the short is that it is not a great year to be asking for more money, but we will make our argument and we will do the best we can and see what comes of it. The important thing is that they know all the good work that's going on within the creative districts and by the agency in general. And please stop me any place along the way that you have any questions. The second thing I wanted to mention is that we are working on developing the programming for the Bicentennial Sculpture Project's 50th anniversary. That will be in conjunction with the nation's semi-quincentennial that takes place in July of 2026. And that to that end, Megan Dion of our staff has been working with me to talk to a number of different entities to develop what we'll be doing. First of all, there are the sculptures that are in the rest area, and we will be working with a conservationist to spruce them up, bring them up to date, add some new signage that will provide opportunities for people to be able to access more information about the sculptures and about public art across the state. Then we are working with the folks at Nebraska Public Media about updating the documentaries that they did back in 1976 and interviewing some of the folks that were there then who are still here now. And we've come in contact with almost a dozen of those folks. Then to that end, the other thing that we are doing is talking with some good people who are involved with public art in communities along the I-80 corridor, especially in those communities who have the sculptures. Like our brand new councilman, Clark Coulterman, who is in charge of the operations there in Seward, which, as he mentioned, is also the 4th of July center for the state of Nebraska, and would be our choice to be able to do the rededication ceremony at the Seward exit, which is actually the Blue River exit, where Arrival, the sculpture Arrival is. Our hope is to have a rededication ceremony with the governor or representative of the state. We'll invite Representative Flood, Representative Bacon, Smith, and anybody else who wants to come. And then we will also be coordinating celebrations in the other communities. And as I mentioned, we want to expand that to other communities along the I-80 corridor that have sculpture gardens, and that includes everything from Omaha's Leahy Mall to the works in Lincoln to North Platte to our friends out in Gehring and the brand new sculptures that they have in their civic sculpture garden. To that end, Clark Colterman has agreed to help out with that, and Jeannie and Sherry as well. I will be honest that all of that has been on the back burner until we got through the activities that we had this fall, but now as we turn the corner and go into the new year, we will be stoking that up. Megan and I also met with the folks at the Nebraska State Historical Society and the Semi-Quincentennial Committee to get on their committee and to make our presentation to them. And we'll be working going forward with them on an exhibit that will take place in the Nebraska History Museum, and one that will travel across the state to those communities that I had mentioned before. I think we are also working with the folks at tourism to develop a passport package that will take people along that corridor. And so the whole tying in with tourism and the arts will be step one in that process as well. All of these collaborations are rather new to the agency. And so this project has really opened up a lot of doors and provided us the opportunity to work with a lot of new people in a lot of new ways. So it's been exciting so far. There's a lot of work, but it should be an exciting project going forward, at least through July of 2026.
I think Karen Harris, weren't you also?
Karen was one of them.
Yeah, you also were involved way back at the beginning of this, weren't you?
Yeah. I was. I worked on Irma's Desire in Grand Island.
Yeah.
That installation.
Yeah, the artists, when this happened back in 1976, the artists lived in residence in the communities in which they were working.
Yeah.
And John Romaldi was the artist with Irma's Desire, and he lived in the Grand Island area. And and oh, by the way, I don't know where to stop telling you things, but I'll add this. John Romaldi is still a practicing artist, and Megan, are you on?
Yes, is our artist here?
Who is the person from Lincoln Public Arts that knows John Romaldi?
Elizabeth.
Cat.
Oh, what is her last name?
Elizabeth Cat?
Yes, that is it.
Elizabeth Cat is in charge of Lincoln Public Art, and when we were talking with her in Beatrice, she made mention of the fact that her mother knew John Romaldi.
I think it's her niece.
Please, at any rate, we are looking to make contact with he, and for those of you who remember, Irma's Desire was the one that caused the controversy back in the day, and so to have the artist who was part of the parcel of that controversy back here to do a follow-up documentary would be fascinating, and he has another piece here in the state, so we'd be looking to make an opportunity for him to come back to the state and visit some of his art. So lots of exciting things as part of this project. Any questions? If not, I'll tell you what I can tell you about the state poet selection process. Matt Mason has served a wonderful stint as a Nebraska state poet. His stint is ending at the end of this month, and so we have been working with our friends at Nebraska, or Humanities Nebraska, as well as the Lincoln, the Nebraska Library Commission on putting together a panel of people who would select the next state poet. They have made their recommendation. There are 4 finalists, and the next step is for the governor to take those recommendations and appoint the next state poet. I have sent all that information off to the governor and have spoken to his office. It sounds as though they are going to be moving forward and acting on it, but it is our feeling that until he actually appoints somebody, we should probably not mention the people involved, because it may not be any of them. The governor can appoint whoever he wants, and rather than cause any embarrassment, but as soon as we know, and I'll check my emails before the end of the meeting. I spoke with Grant Latimer, who is his PR guy, and he was gonna move it forward with the governor. And so as soon as I get that information, I will pass it on to you, and we can herald the new state poet. We hope to have him in place. I just gave away half of it, didn't I? before the new year, so that we can have him involved in many of these things that we're talking about now. So that's what I can tell you about that. I'd be glad to answer any questions you have that I can. But Nebraska, the NEA grant application, as you know, we make application to the NEA every 3 years for a federal grant. They have added a new opportunity to their grant this year, and that was that you could request as part of your grant either 25,000 or 75,000 additional dollars to add a arts, health, and well-being component to what you do. Or in the as a project for the 25,000. Or you can spend the 75,000 to spend the year researching and developing and planning what you would be doing for arts, health, and well-being. The Arts Council already is engaged in several different programmings that fall under this heading, including the work that we're doing through the Creative Aging Arts Program, the work that we're beginning with the Veterans Center, and what else falls under that?
Oh, we have several grantees who come under arts learning and arts project grants that have a health focus.
So we're already doing a lot of this already, and we applied for the 75,000. We won't know about it until the spring, but just know that as it is nationwide, the whole idea of working with communities that have deep mental therapy or health or are feeling isolation or that sort of thing, the arts have become an important component in working with those communities. In fact, one of the big things that we talked about in San Juan was a program called Art Pharmacy.
Arts prescription.
Art prescription.
Arts prescription.
Which is working with doctors to prescribe the arts as treatment for, obviously what they would help, not some illnesses, but so it is a moving and growing program across the country. We are already doing a lot of it. This would just provide us with additional funding to be able to research and plan what we can and should be doing at our state level in that arena. Okay. Just wanted to give you a couple of quick updates that I did. I met with the governor ostensibly to talk to him about the I-80 project, to get it on his calendar, because obviously we want to have him involved. The day that I went in there, though, was the day that they posted this 6-region, 1 Nebraska program that is being developed through the Department of Economic Development. And I went in and talked to him about that as well. The key component to that is that it is a program of the Department of Economic Development. It is working with local navigators in the 6 different regions of the state on working with the communities on economic development. And a lot of that sounds very familiar. And so I asked the governor what possible collaborations there might be with our Creative District program. And he was very positive in his response. My next meeting is with Casey Bellitz, who is the Executive Director of the Department of Economic Development, on the 20th, where I will talk to him about how our Creative District program fits into the larger picture of economic development for the state. There are so many different programs all centered around economic development. How can we all work together? How can our program fit into that? And how can we perhaps increase our capacity through these other agencies that have a lot more money, a lot more people, and a lot more time? So more about that as it goes forward, but there's some exciting possibilities there. And then finally, I spent a couple of days in San Antonio working with the folks at the Mid-America Arts Alliance. That relationship has become more important, and I think will become more important for our creative districts. Mid-America Arts Alliance is the regional organization of state arts agencies. It's a six state region. And it not only provides support for our agency in terms of peer group, peer sessions, things like that. It's a support network for me as an ED to be able to talk to these other directors about what's going on in their state, and also at the council level for sharing. But they have a number of different programs like Exhibits USA, where they have exhibits that are available, art exhibits, things like that, that I think can be of use to the creative districts as they put forward their programming. They also have executive or organizational services that I think can be useful to the creative districts. So we're developing a closer relationship with the folks of Mid-America, and a lot of that was talked about in San Antonio, and it's not a bad place to visit either. So.
Can I add?
Please, I'll take a breath.
A couple of things about Mid-America. One is that they have, over the last year or so, really increased the number of staff. They're doing a lot more programming, yeah, incredibly, and they're getting a lot more money in. So it has really, it's good for us to have that relationship. The other thing, when Mike mentioned Exhibitions USA, there's an exhibition right now in Omaha at El Museo Latino that is an exhibition from Mid-America. It's called Popol Vuh. It is a Guatemalan creation story by an artist by the name of Jaime Arredondo, who it's a wonderful exhibition. If you have a chance to see it, I would also encourage anybody around the state that might have a place that they could do this, because it's a very reasonable how much they charge for the exhibitions if you're within the Mid-America network. And it is any of the Central America, South America creation story kinds of things that are taken from basically from the beginning of how the various myths have started. And it's the illustrations are wonderfully done. So I just I would push it on any community I think could really benefit from it.
There'll also be one in Red Cloud in June. I don't know the name of that one, but yeah.
But they have probably 15 or 20 exhibitions that are ongoing and in process, and they're usually going around for up to 5 years.
And I think eventually you could see one of those exhibits traveling from creative district to creative district and developing
That's a great idea.
Block booking for that. State Arts Awards. We are looking at the present time to do the State Arts Awards at approximately the same time that we did them last year in mid-late October, approximately October 19th, as it was last year. That date is not set. We want to avoid some of the other dates that are going on during that time. It's a very busy time. It tends to work out well for us though. But to that end, we are also looking to make it a daytime event that would take place in the rotunda of the Capitol. The important thing is making the award to these people who are deserving of recognition. And so we would host the event in the rotunda and live stream it across the state. We are looking to then have a small reception afterwards. There locally someplace, either they're in the Capitol or in one of the perhaps the basement of the governor's mansion or Billy's or some other facility like that. But just so that you're aware of that, we will be putting out a call for nominations after the beginning of the year, and those will be open until probably late spring, and we'll be putting together a panel to choose those State Arts Awards. And if you have any questions about the awards or previous awardees, all of that information is available on our website, or you just give me a holler and I'd be glad to tell you what I know. Okay. Finally, I serve on the nominations committee for the National Association of State Arts Agencies, and I don't know if that's why, but for some reason, they have asked if they can hold the executive forum for the organization here in Omaha next November. That is what they do is every other year they hold the great big assembly like they did this year in San Juan. On the off years, they have the executive forum. And to that, they invite the executive directors and the deputy directors, and it's much more focused what's going on in the world of the state arts agencies and in your agency. They want to hold it here in Omaha. What they have assured me is that it is designed to be as little inconvenience or imposition to the host organization as possible. They pay for everything, they arrange everything. All that would be required of us is for me to make a welcome speech and to recommend what folks might do while they're there. Much of what they do is on their own, so they don't have to organize dinners, things like that. But they would certainly want to know what we would think. And so we are putting together a list of, what they do is they organize tours to activities or venues here in the area. They did in Santa Fe when we were there 2 years ago. And so we'll put together a list of places that we think would be good for them to visit, and places they might want to eat or go see and that sort of thing while they're here. But just so you know, again, there's no real role or ask of the council, except that if there's something going on in one of these venues and you want to be part of it, then there may be something along those lines. I'll certainly keep you informed as we go along, but just to give you a heads up about that. And I believe I am done talking.
Any questions about anything that Mike presented? I knew you had a lot. Okay, let's go on to program reports. Outreach and inclusion, Josh?
Yeah, we just wrapped up a really nice inclusion training with Creighton University. Dr. Sarah Walker and Dr. Becky Nickerson led that. It was focused kind of on recognizing your own biases, and especially in reference to the grantor-grantee relationships, so kind of looking at some of those things. Really a nice, they did a really nice job. So if you are looking for that for your organization, I would recommend Creighton. They did it nice. I attended the LEAD conference this year. The Mid-America Alliance had an affinity group that I helped lead that. I'm looking forward to going again this year, and I'm exploring more some different avenues for how we can get more Nebraska artists and teachers and arts administrators over there. Got some meetings coming up that have a lot of promise, and we're talking about having kind of a cohort based on Nebraskans that have attended that meeting and what we want to do together. So an exciting prospect there, and I'm hoping to get a chance to talk about that again before the next calendar year is up. Also in 25 and 26, we're looking at ways to impact the veteran community more. We have been trying for a long time to get connected in any way we can. Many different efforts from different staff members over the last handful of years. Jennifer and Megan included have both done some outreach here, and Mike, Ann, and I have lately been working with the Vet Center to connect them to what we can provide, probably like a residency program there to serve the veterans that are served by the Vet Center. We're also looking for a veteran service navigator, somebody who can work on a kind of contract basis or as a consultant to help us better understand and better serve our veteran communities here in Nebraska. So if you have names, we'd love to hear them. We have some ideas too, but we are always happy to hear what you all have to say. So, much appreciated.
Well, for that matter, this whole initiative, the Arts, Health, and Wellbeing Initiative, as we did with folk and traditional arts, we'd be looking for outside help with experts in that field, certainly to augment our capacity, but also so that we're not having to learn an entire new field of things. We want to work with people who already know what they're doing. And so we'll be looking for help in that way. I'll just mention one thing while I've got both of you in the same room. You and I and Maggie and Emma should talk real quickly about some of the things that you're working on, because it just so that they know. Yeah. Nice report.
Any questions?
Oh, hello, Lance.
Hey.
Hey, we'll get you in at the end of these reports.
Okay, hang on.
Did somebody have a question?
It's not a question. I was just to tie the two different conversations together, one about the veterans and one about prescription for happiness or something. Mike, you were talking about earlier in the meeting. I literally told my UNL students today in my rendering class, pause the television and draw. It engages a totally different side of the brain, and it can lead to happiness in a way that is just, no one is talking about it. So I just wanted to jump in and say I have a lot to say about that. I won't say it today, but I love that you're thinking about the veterans, because the mental health is a big concern in that community, and arts really they engage a different side of your brain when you're creating them. And I think that's a wonderful idea. So thank you guys.
And Brenda, the arts prescription initiative basically is working with, they've got certain states they're working with and certain medical communities. And what they're doing is that working with doctors who are working with mental health patients, and instead of giving them pills, they're prescribing. What do you like to do? Why don't you go to the theater? Why don't you go take a pottery class? Why don't you go something with, go take a dance class, whatever. And because it is a prescription, it is covered by insurance. Exactly. And so consequently, you've got the benefits of the prescription, but you also have artists being paid and not just doing something like they're so often asked to do. So that's why all of us just all stood up and got out, and we were just, it's such a great idea, and it's working in Massachusetts that has Massachusetts has a big initiative, and there are several other places.
Great idea.
Just as an
absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Very neat. Thank you, Brenda.
Anything else for Josh? Okay, then let's go on to creative districts. Rachel?
You're gonna need a bigger slide, Rachel.
I know, I'm running out of room, which is a great problem to have. So here is our trusty map that we like to share at every meeting and see the growth that's happening. These are the certified districts so far. We have 34 now that are certified across the state, all the way from Falls City to Chadron, Scotts Bluff, all across the state. We're very excited, but we are not done. Next slide, Sam. Thanks. These are the districts that are in process. We are still receiving letters of interest. We just got one last week even. So it is still a program that communities are not done with. They're still interested. So you'll see here, there are still communities that are working through the process, which means they've at least sent in a letter of interest. We are still reviewing workbooks. We actually have a panel coming up either next week or in a couple of weeks. So what we're seeing now is a big interest in urban communities. You see a lot of the red stars near the Omaha area. And so we're seeing now the rural communities have jumped on board. And so now we're seeing a shift into the urban communities, which is really interesting to watch that happen. And next slide. The big project that we're working on right now is the development grant. So once districts are certified, they become eligible for this development grant. And this is where they can request up to $100,000. They can spread it across 2 years. So if they want to do something that is maybe more sustainable and they want to ask for $50,000 year one, $50,000 year two, they can do that. There's some flexibility in how they do that. We left it pretty open as to what they could apply for. It all has to tie back to their strategic plan. And so we were very curious to see what districts would come back with. And so you can see there a little description on each one, what is being applied for. One of the things that we're really noticing as a trend is organizational capacity. People are really wanting to hire a coordinator or someone to really help them bring everyone together, do the paperwork, write the grants, that administrative piece. We're seeing a big push towards that. We are going to hold this panel. We've already lined up our panelists. We're going to hold the panel in January. There are a couple of different funding sources that go to this grant program, so it's a little more complicated than the rest of our grants. And so just making sure that we're allocating things correctly. But I'm really excited to see what comes out of this. You will notice Mike did some math for us. So at the bottom, we had a total of right around 2.4 million requested. We are looking at probably around $1 million that we will be able to grant out. Some of those are the state appropriation that we get. And then the other is that sports arena turnback tax that we get also. And they both have different ways we can use the money. So that's where it gets a little complicated. But yeah, we're really excited to see what happens. This also helps us make our case when we go and ask for more money from the legislature, if Mike decides to do that. That we can show that this is what we have requested. All of these districts have viable projects and have things that they really want to see happen in their community. And we still have districts that are becoming certified, so they will be in the mix the following year as well. Any questions?
Two quick things. And as Rachel mentioned, this will be a large part of what we'll talk to the legislature about. This is the argument, and probably the folks that will bring would be the folks who didn't receive grants this time, because they will have the strongest argument in front of the Appropriations Committee. The other is that, as Rachel mentioned, a number of these are about capacity building, and so that's something that I will be talking about with Casey Bellitz at the Department of Economic Development, and anybody who will talk to me is looking at any possible options or opportunities to be able to provide funding or programs by which these communities can develop that capacity. Develop somebody within the community who can be that creative district coordinator or cultural administrator or whatever title and in whatever way and through which other organization they can. And that might be also working to redevelop the Main Street program here in the state of Nebraska. Nebraska doesn't have much of a Main Street program. I think there are 5 communities in the program, whereas in the states around us, there are dozens of communities. So that may be an opportunity as well. So this provides good fodder for both of those. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When they make their applications for the creative arts projects, are they a separate entity as a 501c3, or do they go through a 501c3 in that community?
They need to have a 501c3 community that they are working with in that community.
As a partner, and then they can get the funds through there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And ideally, especially if they're going to be working towards a building, that be a government entity. So that because you have to be a government entity to own a building in the state or to get money for a building. So that's the best partnership. But yeah.
All right.
Any other questions for Rachel about the report? Lots going on, lots more happening, exciting program.
Okay, then moving on,
meant to take that out.
Okay.
Not much to say this time.
Yeah, Megan, 1% for art.
Yes, thank you. So good to see all of you. My name's Megan Dion. For the newer board members, and I am the Public Art and Artist Program Specialist. So I will share with you a few of our 1% projects. These are our newer projects. We have about 6 or 7 current ongoing projects, and then there are 2 that are in the hopper, but right now our newest projects are the UNL Architecture Hall, UNMC Core Building, and the UNL Westbrook Music Building. So each of these have a state appropriated money in the biennial budget, and according to that, we get 1% for selecting artwork in their building or around their building. And we're really excited that all of these budgets are pretty substantial. So we're hoping for some really exciting new work. And in the UNL Architecture Hall and the UNL Westbrook building are both newer additions to buildings, and will be completely renovating or adding on to the current building. The Architecture Hall, we don't quite have figured out where the artwork will go yet, but they're hoping for an indoor-outdoor artwork. So we have a lot of potential there, and I think it will be very interesting to a lot of artists. The core building, for those of you in Omaha, that's right near the UNMC campus on Saddle Creek. And they have a whole new neighborhood called the Edge District, and that will all be developed for live work and medical research. So it's very fascinating, and they are hoping for something that has a lot of medical connotations. We'll see, and of course, with all of our talk about health and art, it's always interesting to see how that correlates with the Healing Arts program. And then of course the Westbrook Music Building, it's the largest budget on here, and we have a 3-story corridor along the hallway that seeps into a lobby space, and we're very excited to see what comes in for that. Does anyone have any questions about these 1% projects or the program in general?
I wanted to ask about the fee and how it was decided for those that are chosen. It seems like the budgets are really, really big, but the fee is really tiny. And it's not that I don't think that there's a reason. I just wondered what the reason was.
Do you mean the honorarium?
Yes.
So let me back up a little bit. For these projects, we issue a request for qualifications. And so when artists apply, they're not submitting a proposal for the project. They're submitting artwork that they've created in the past, just so that we can get an idea of what kind of work they're doing. And then from there, we select the finalists, and those finalists get paid a small fee so that they can create a site-specific proposal. And so that's instead of that process, so that we can pay the artist, is instead of a request for proposals, which is another solution that isn't as good, because you're not paying artists for their work and creating a site-specific proposal. So really, at the end of the day, the selected artist will be getting the full budget that's listed, but we're just paying the finalists a smaller amount of that, which is always based on the amount of the full budget. It's a 1% of the full budget usually, that the finalists get paid, so that we can, in turn pay finalists for the work that they're doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It was just
Okay.
a little surprising, when I saw the tiny number, it would just seem
Right.
small. Yeah,
Well,
thank you.
Yeah, it is a small number, but they're not doing the full artwork on that number.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for that. There's always a lot that goes into these programs, and I think it helps to have questions like that, so thanks. Sam, would you mind going to the next slide, please? Thank you. And then I wanted to do a little bit of a deep dive into one of our recent completed 1% for Art program or projects. This is a project at the UNK Calvin T. Ryan Library, completed by Leslie E.Y., who previously lived in Nebraska. Now she lives in Wisconsin, but she created this multifaceted artwork. She worked with our current state poet, Matt Mason, to curate a list of 9 poets, and then and poems that they created, and then she translated that into Morse code. And so on the picture on the far right, you'll see Morse code painted onto the wall. And then you'll also see it on those clouds. And so the piece is called Cumulate. And
sorry.
No worries. And so it's all about imagery and knowledge that's held in the cloud and how we can access that. And so she has 2 atriums that are filled with this work, but she also created a book, and the book includes the Morse code and Braille. So you can actually feel the Braille in the book, and that book is available to look at in the library. And then there's also a recording on the website. And I can add that website in the chat too, for those of you who are online. And those of you in the office have the opportunity to look at the completed book, which I can slip in and pass around after this. And then I wanted to also share the 2 pictures on the left because it includes all of the poets who Matt Mason, well, at least a portion of the poets that Matt Mason curated. For the unveiling ceremony, all of these poets came to speak alongside Leslie, and they recited their poetry from the book in person. So in this picture, you can see a number of the poets, as well as Matt Mason and Leslie, who's holding the book. And then also Leslie EY with her sculptures in the background while she's looking at the book is the lower picture. So I just thought I'd share because it's kind of special to see when artwork is so greatly appreciated in the 1% collection. And not only was it featured here, but it was also featured at the Nebraska Library Association annual conference. Leslie was asked to speak about this project along with Matt Mason at that conference. So it's had a lot of feet on the ground already, and we're pretty excited about it.
And it's great when an artwork correlates it with such relevancy to the place where it's at.
That's right.
You're good. I will just, you know, one of the things that gets sort of lost because we just sort of do these things is I think that, and Megan has championed this, we've done an awful lot recently to recognize the work of artists who do things on our behalf. Everything from we no longer charge artists to make applications through our slide room. We now are paying a stipend to the artists who exhibit in our gallery for the artist talk that they do. And as Megan mentioned, they get paid to do the work on the on-site exhibit that they do here. So I think every place that we can, we're recognizing that artists' work is important and it's valued, and we are doing what we can to pay for it. Reagan, did I miss anything that we're doing?
I don't think so. I think that's it. But okay. I'm not quite sure. Maybe we've been doing a lot.
Well, and I'll mention that a lot of the reasons that we're able to do that is because, as I was telling Julie today, we not only have the 1% for art program, but we are also contracted, Megan is, to facilitate private public art projects, and for which we receive a fee. And so we're able to use some of those fees in order to be able to do these things for artists. So it's been an exciting development, and hopefully it makes a difference. All right.
And Megan, I brought the book in.
Oh, thank you, Jennifer.
Sitting on the edge here, it's a little delicate, so I didn't want to pass it around.
Yeah, you're welcome to, anyone in there is welcome to look through it.
Thank you. Okay, then let's go back. Can we go back to the slides for Nebraskans for the Arts? Lance Nielsen, the smiling guy in the last, in the NASA picture. There we go. Whoops. Okay, Lance, you're on.
Hi, I'm actually doing art. I'm at the Makery in West Omaha this afternoon at an event, so we're fitting it in. So thank you. Right on our very first slide, I kind of want to point out that this spring, 2025, we're going to be recognizing and celebrating our 40th year of existence. So we've been around for a while and advocating for a long time, and we plan on continuing to do so for many more years. So we'll get an opportunity to celebrate that a little bit. You can flip to the next slide, and we'll talk through some things that we're doing. We are currently working with the Americans for the Arts. They are incorporating a new tool. They have used voters' voice for a long time, and they are shifting to a new program called Quorum. And they offered that to a lot of the state advocacy organizations if we wanted to be involved in that at a very, it's a very expensive program, but they're really flipping the bill for the majority of it. So we were able to get into it at a very minimal cost, which is great. I told Mike this morning, I'm going through a variety of training on it, and it's kind of a little overwhelming, but the possibilities of what we're going to be able to do as far as monitoring legislation and being able to contact and even as we have people in our Nebraska Arts Network contact senators, we'll be able to log that, and we'll be able to collect some data over the long term, which I think is going to be very, very valuable. So we're working on that. The Nebraska Arts Advocacy Network, you've heard me talk about this before. We're continuing to build on this, and we're getting very close to having a lot of our districts covered. Now, you'll notice I put in the bullet there, these are the only areas where I'm really looking to have a representative. So if you know someone in these communities who, first of all, probably should be a Nebraskans for the Arts member, plus if they would also like to be an advocate, a representative, someone we can contact if we want them to contact and develop a relationship with their senator. So we're getting very, very close, which we're excited about. Concerns leading, and I think you've heard some of this already from Mike earlier, looking into the spring here at the national level, we're really going to need to pay a lot of attention on the National Endowment of the Arts and Humanities with how that, if that's going to be, you know, it's been on the chopping block before, and it's even more now. So we're going to have to do a lot of advocacy at the national level. And so you're going to see a lot of I think we need to start telling the stories of how NEA grants has impacted Nebraska. I'm going to backpedal here just a little bit. Last week, Mid-America Arts Alliance invited all of us arts advocacy executive directors down, and we were able to spend a couple days together in Kansas City. And this is one of the things we talked about is we need to start collecting that data. We need to have those stories, and we need to start getting them out now so people start to understand the impact that it has. And if it was to go away, then you can see where the impact might be. So we're going to start that. Department of Ed as well, because that impacts arts education funding, maybe indirectly, but it will have an impact. And then, of course, the local level, and Mike has already kind of indicated what one of our asks is going to be. But as we know, the revenue forecast might impact that funding. So we have a lot that we'll need to be doing this spring and supporting both at the federal and state level. And the next slide. Big announcement. Obviously, we're going to do our Arts Advocacy Day again, and you are all invited. It is on Wednesday, February 19th. We'll be doing it at the state capitol, and in the afternoon, we'll be at the Scottish Rite building. So basically, the flow of the day, very similar to last year, but we're going to make some tweaks. We'll have a morning breakfast time, and we're hoping to invite some senators and staff and all of everybody who's participating to kind of kick off the morning. We'll do some advocacy training sessions in the morning, but we also want to give an opportunity for people to make connections with their own state senator as well. We are also partnering with the Nebraska Music Education Association's Music at the Capitol series, and we made sure that our 2 days coincide. So we'll have a concert in the Rotunda at noon that we want everybody to stick around and listen to. And then we'll head over to the Scottish Rite for lunch, and then we'll have some afternoons sessions. We're going to do a creative district assembly gathering as well. And we're also going to have some arts education sessions. And I know earlier, I think Cody visited about the arts education data project. We're actually going to have a session just on that. We want to have basically create a think tank of how we're going to use that data, not only for advocacy work, but what are those research questions we're looking for. So we want to impact on that a little bit. Also on top of this, we are working the night before Tuesday, February 18th. We want to have a reception where all of you board members are invited. We're also going to invite the Nebraskans for the Arts Board, obviously, and senators and anybody who might be driving in for the Arts Advocacy Day the day before, the night before. We're going to have a little reception, hors d'oeuvres, and a gathering. Informal, but that's how we build relationships. And so we're going to do that on Tuesday, February 18th. You will get an invitation by email. I'll work with Mike. You'll get an invitation for both of this, the Arts Advocacy Day and the reception for the night before, right after the holidays. So probably around January 2nd or 3rd. Please check your email. We'll have a little registration that you can fill out. So we can know who's all coming, and we're really looking forward to this. I think it's going to be a very important time for us to be at the Capitol and making those connections. And that's basically all I have. Are there any questions for me?
Okay, thank you very much, Lance. It's pretty exciting stuff. Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, we are at the end of the meeting. Anybody have any other business? And I'm
Under
looking.
2 hours, don't get used to that.
Yeah, I guess I tried real hard this time.
Sherry?
Yeah.
I just want to make a note that on tab 5, where our addresses are, mine is printed incorrectly. It's 3020 instead of 3010. You know, it says 3030 and mine's 3020. Yeah.
Okay,
we figured out.
thank you.
Okay, well, I just thought I'd tell the members just in case.
Okay, any other business? All right, then I need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Julie, second? Second, Jeannie, okay. Vote call?
Sherry Hofsharr.
Yes.
Ryan Botsford.
Yes.
Zachary Cheek.
I guess so.
Brenda Davis. Michelle Dudley.
Yes.
Crystal Dunning. Jana Goranson.
Yes.
John Gross.
Yes.
Karen Harris.
Yes.
Julie Jacobson.
Yes.
Clark Polterman. We lose Clark? All right. Clark Roush.
Yes.
Jeannie Salerno.
Yes.
Thank you all very much.
Yes, thank you, everybody, for all your attention. I know it's a lot of information, but really appreciate it. Have a good holiday season, and our next meeting is March 5th, and it's virtual.
Okay.
So see you then, everybody. Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks.
Happy holidays.
Bye, guys. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Sam.
Oh, my, not a problem.